Hey everybody, it's Motley GM here, and today I have my fifth and final video in the series that I've titled My Plea for You to Play Other TTRPGs. As I've stated before, these are 5 games that I recommend that if you're leaving Hasbro Dungeons and Dragons and looking for other tabletop games, there are 5 choices I'm presenting as an alternative for different reasons, and I'll go over that in my honorable mentions video. Now, in this video, I have the pleasure to showcase to you guys Cairn, both first and second editions. And like with the other 4 games in this list, Cairn is one of my absolute favorite games and can easily be one that takes the first place in your tabletop RPG library, or the only place if that's what you're really looking for. Now, just so you know right off the bat, on April 26, 2024, the second edition of Cairn was funded on Kickstarter. And I linked the Kickstarter below because even though it's over, you can still see all the updates and logs about it. And although that's not yet ready for final release, Yohai, the creator of Cairn, did give me the go-ahead to showcase the playtest PDFs. So I'll do that during the PDF part of this video. But check out that Kickstarter page, like I was saying. It still shows you everybody that made this thing happen, and it's still pretty cool to check out. So what is Cairn, you may ask? Well, in my opinion, Cairn is the most OSR, non-OSR game there is, kind of. That is, in its feel and gameplay, it's very OSR, but in its rule set, it's very much different than what we consider OSR. And perhaps that's a video for another time, the discussion of the distinction there. But in this case, and for the sake of this list, because the rule set is different in a few places, it's kind of a OSR but also non-OSR game. But the gameplay and feel of the game definitely falls in line to what I consider one of the OSR's defining marks. And Cairn does that really, really well, that the rules actually support that type of game. The first edition of Cairn was first made available in June of 2020. It was written by Yohai Gal. It's a rules-light, classless system featuring a D20 roll under system that uses only 3 stats. Armors in this game actually reduce damage, and there's no actual rolls to hit. The rules are inspired by games like Into the Odd, Knave, Mouse Ritter, Old School Essentials, and a few other games and inspirations that you'll see on the first page of the book. To me, Cairn is one of those games that has so much familiarity, but is also at the same time really new. And for some players, that might be exactly what they're looking for and will get them really excited. It's a very easy to learn and easy to teach game. It's easy to play, and it's very, very made for homebrew. And that's always going to be a plus in the Motley GM way of looking at things, because the Motley GM's big into homebrew and coming up with your own things and using your creativity to add to what the tabletop game gives you. The other beautiful thing about Cairn that my channel completely supports is the first edition PDF is free to download, and links in the description below will either bring you directly to a page or lead you to one of those pages. But the PDF is free, just like with Basic Fantasy, and you can buy the book for $3. It's really not an expensive game to get into. It definitely scratches that itch for people that want to do low-cost gaming or don't want to spend a whole lot of money on their tabletop game, but still get a complete game that's a whole lot of fun. Cairn really fits that bill really, really well. And to top it all off, it does have a lot of third-party support and a large community that surrounds and loves the game. Before I keep on babbling about how much I love it, let's go over to the PDF. I'll show you some of the things I really like about the game and break down the game a little bit for you over there. I'll also show off a couple of the second edition PDFs and some of the things that were added to the game that really struck me and that I liked a lot. So let's head over to the PDF and take a look at what makes this rules-light masterpiece a game that I love so much. Hey, all right, everybody, here I am at the PDF to take a look at Cairn and show you a little bit about why I like it. We'll first stop here to give a little credit to Yohai and the people that inspired him. All right, now right off the bat, these first 3 pages, first one being the design philosophy, which in essence details my favorite way of playing games, and the way that this game is set up does evoke a certain feel, a certain type of game. Following that, there's principles for wardens, which I'll be honest with you guys, it's almost like Yohai read my mind here. In many cases, this is almost a blueprint to how I also run games and think about running games. So I think this is This is really great. Followed by the principles for players. And these 3 pages here have just so much packed in a very small amount of space and can be translated to any other game you play. So I recommend just checking that out just for that reason alone. Here we see that character creation is pretty simple. We also are introduced to the 3 ability scores that you will use. And we're also introduced to hit protection, which is a nice little mechanic I want to share really quick here. So hit protection isn't the same as hit points. Hit protection is a way to determine how your PC can evade being damaged. Once your hit protection is down to 0, then you start taking a hit to your strength, basically. When the strength of a player character reaches 0, that player is dead. There's some other cool things like scars and such, but that's the basics on how that works for being hit and getting wounded and such. Now, here, I want to stop to point this out. Now, this book, like Knave and other rules light books that I feel are really, really awesome, there's tons of great roll tables in this book. And I won't show you all the roll tables per se, but I just want you to know that there's tons of them in here as well for just about every step of character creation and world building. So please utilize those. I feel that roll tables is another way that you could pack a lot of game into a very small package. But here, I really wanted to point this out because I think this is really awesome. This is a classless system, yet here, these gear packages are essentially types of loadouts that give you the feel of a class. And I think that's really, really cool, especially for people that really resonate with the idea of a class that gives them that feel, at least. It's not going to be mechanically the same as you might expect, but it's definitely going to give you that feel, since in this game, similar to Knave, what the experience of the player is and the gear that they have is really what defines who they are. So you combine these gear packages with a proper backstory, and you basically have that class. And I think it's really, really clever that this was added in here. So here I want to go over a couple quick things just to tell you a little bit about the game. This is the nuts and bolts right here, the basic rules to it. Abilities, again, you have the 3, and I think this is great for new players and for new GMs, especially. A little bit less to manage makes games easier and quicker. When it comes to saves in this game, it's a d20 roll under system. So you're looking to roll under one of those abilities. Healing works in a way where HP or hit protection recovers quickly, but getting scarred or a loss to your ability, like your strength or something like that, takes more time to heal. And of course, that could be augmented by magic or some kind of medicine. Deprivation and fatigue is basically what happens if you don't get a crucial need, if you're too tired, or if you cast spells. And I think that's another awesome little mechanic in there that makes a player have to think about how often they want to use something. Armor in this game is basically a bonus to defense, and all that means is that that reduces the damage coming in. Because in this game, you don't roll to hit, you just roll the weapon die, and the armor takes away from whatever that roll is. The remainder takes away from HP or subsequently strength when that happens. Awesome, awesome, quick mechanics, makes combat go super fast. Really love it. Casting a spell can be done by anybody so long as they have a book and they can hold it and read the contents aloud. Simple, easy. There's also a little spot in here for hirelings, and you know how much I like having hirelings in my games to be available for players when they need it. Now, I described combat a little bit earlier, but to reiterate this, you do not roll to attack. You just roll your weapon die. So, whatever the damage die is for your weapon, you roll that. You subtract the defense and or AC from that roll, and then that's what damages either the player character or the enemy. Simple, easy, and again, it just makes it go so fast. But let's take a look here at critical damage. If somebody suffers critical damage, they're basically struggling for life and need help. And that's an awesome little mechanic there. And it's another one of those things where it's very subtle, but it's very, very useful, because instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm at 0, I'm dead," you have that time where it's like, I'm dying and I can still call for help and I can still get help, but I can't really do much else. Makes for some dramatic scenes. The first edition, we have a very small bestiary here, but it gives you the creating monsters blueprint. And that's just something I think is awesome in a lot of OSR games, because OSR and the Motley GM channel is all about homebrew, really. In the early game, there wasn't a lot of supplements out there, so people made up their own things. And this gives you a great blueprint on how to do that for yourself. You combine that with some of the roll tables, and you can have unique creatures. Wouldn't even get the same one twice, especially if you add in that touch of imagination you're supposed to. Brilliantly done here, sir. 100 spells, succinct in description. Can I say more? It's my favorite. I love that. And then the chef's kiss of it all, guys, right here. All the rules, one page. While you're running the game, you have one page to reference. Easy, quick. You're not bogged down, and that's one of the things about Cairn and rules-like games I love so much. But it's one of the reasons why I think Cairn is just a masterpiece as far as rules-like games go. In the second edition, most of the rules remain the same, but there are some additions, and I kind of want to show off the second edition PDFs to you. So let's jump over there. Here we are at Cairn second edition. Now, the second edition will be broken up into a player's guide and a warden's guide. And I think this is for the better, actually. The only person that could have improved on Cairn first edition is Yohai, and I believe he did an excellent job of that. And I'm going to show you a little bit of why I think that. Let's stop and take a look, as always, to give credit to the people who brought this to us. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this in its physical form. One of the things that have been added into the second edition is bonds. And I really like the idea of just having this as something you can roll for your character to give them a little bit more of a tie to the world. And of course, gives you plenty of options to write your own. Omens is another clever thing where the youngest player character rolls on the omens table. And again, just something clever, gives it its unique spin and adds a flavor that really tells the kind of game that you want to play. Now, one of the main features in the second edition of Cairn is how big of a role backgrounds play. Now, you can look at backgrounds sort of like a combination of class and history, but I really feel background is its own thing here. But it does influence your character and tells of your character's past and influences its present. And I think that's an awesome little mechanic. And I'm not going to go through all 20 backgrounds, but let me highlight three that kind of stood out to me when I was flipping through the pages here. Starting with Bone Keeper, you're always going to get me with the Plague Doctor aesthetic. I don't know why I dig that so much, but this really does that well. It's essentially a type of mortician, and I just think this is really cool. And as all these backgrounds do, gives you a really good idea of the type of game and the world that you're playing. Something else to point out is each one does come with its own roll table, which gives you even more customizability to flesh out that character a little bit more. Another cool one that kind of stood out to me right away was Greenwise. And it's almost like if you think of a druid, but instead of having a lot of magic, they just get a lot of knowledge and know how to use that knowledge to their benefit, is a good way that I see this, but almost as if they can speak to the plants themselves in a way. They're very, very close to nature, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. But it's just one of those cool little things that once more, it gives you a really good glimpse into the world you're playing in. And the third one I'll showcase to you guys, the Scrivener. We're talking about the guy who reads ancient tomes, can translate. He's your bookworm of the group, the guy who can get information through those means. And I just really love the flavor of this. All of these backgrounds just fit the feel of the type of game that's trying to be given to us here so well. It's hard to mistake what they're going for, the vibe and the feel for the game they're going for through the backgrounds alone. And I praise it for that. Now, procedures, this is something else that was added in the second edition. And I really like this because they're very meaningful procedures. I'm not going to delve into all the procedures, of course. I do want you guys to go look at these things and read through them yourself. But having procedures for dungeon exploration that the players have at their hands, they can always access something very easily because it's not a very large book, of course. And if you have the PDFs, it's even easier. They also add in wilderness exploration and the procedures that go with that. And then you also get downtime procedures. And having this is an asset for your players because they're going to need to heal, and that takes time. But during that time, they can do other things that might benefit them. There's just many ways you can use downtime, and this gives some great examples and ideas. And then finally, the setting of Vald, and this is in both the player's and warden's guide. So it just gives you a very basic setting that's enough to play as is, but leaves plenty of room for your own creativity and you adding in your world or dropping this into your world somewhere. And it's that beauty of just enough that I love and my style of GMing really, really resonates with. That being said, let's jump over to the Warden's Guide really quick. Let's check out that art right away. And both covers, the artwork is just phenomenal. I love it. Credits once again. Now, the second edition Warden's Guide, I'm going to go out on a limb and say right away, in my opinion, I've read quite a few game master guides and through a few books on game mastering, short ones at least. But to me, this is a must have Warden's Guide for any GM that likes to GM my style of GMing or many of the OSR style of GMing. This is just a wonderful collection of tools that can be used by a warden. And I really, it's hard for me not to want to just go through this page by page, but I'm not going to do that. I really do want you guys to go check it out for yourself. And I know I am putting this on a high pedestal, but this Warden's Guide really did impress me that much. It gives you tons of tools in this book, tons and tons of tables. Just look at the table of contents here. Everything within the world building and Warden's tools, they all have roll tables. And then the advice and examples is just well written and very, very well thought out. I really can't praise this enough. I'm going to only go through a couple of things here really quick that I really want you to see, but I'm just going to flip through a couple pages here. This is the beginning of the world building. And again, you can see awesome, well thought out roll tables. You got factions, you got topography, you got examples of how they use these roll tables and system to do it. I mean, this is a toolkit for worlds, whether you play Cairn or something else. Seriously, weather. It gives you everything. And the example that it goes step by step with, I think, are just awesome and really gives you that inspiration to want to do that for yourself. The OSR style gaming and the movement that has gone along with that is really a lot about home brewing and doing a lot for yourself and getting these types of roll tables in games like this and other ones that have inspired this game really do give you a lot of tools for that home brewing. And if you lean into that, I really think you find a different game and the type of game that the OSR movement's really trying to get at. All right, starting on the 82nd page here, there's a pretty nice bestiary, and it's not huge, but it's well rounded. And if you know how I like to GM at all, if you've been listening to any of my other videos, you know that a good well-rounded bestiary means you have also plenty of examples of stat blocks that you can steal and change slightly to make a different creature. That is included in this book very well. I mean, they fit a lot on one page. I mean, there's 5 different stat blocks on this page alone, and that's pretty impressive in a small tome like this. But then when you jump ahead, just like in the first edition, it gives you an entire toolkit on creating monsters, and it's an expanded version of the first edition one with great roll tables and examples once more. I really enjoy the way Yohai writes his games. It's very easy to understand and it gives you so much room to create for yourself and really lean into that homebrew feel. And that's something that I always can appreciate in a rules light game. Something else I would really like to point out here is growth. Where growth may not have been as present in the old school games, modern gamers like to have characters that, if they survive, can grow and change and tell a story. And this does an awesome, awesome job. This entire section does a great job of giving examples and giving a path for wardens to take and make sure that these player characters have opportunities to grow as characters. And for a GM like me that really enjoys the role playing aspect as much as I do combat, I think this is a great addition, and not enough GM resources out there talk about this kind of stuff. I kind of skipped over the advice and examples section, mostly because I want you to look at that one for yourself as well. But let me say this much about it. It's very, very well written. There's excellent examples. Many questions are answered. And it's another example of how Yohai almost read my brain on some of the questions and some of the examples that came up, just almost like he reads my brain and comes up with the same solutions that I would have. And I think that's really cool and maybe why this game resonates with me so well. But the setting of Volunteer, too, they have this in both the player's guide and the warden's guide. Of course, this is more of a toolkit for the region. and just gives you the factions and the religions and beliefs of the region, gives you the basic areas. And this is awesome. If you did not build your own world, or if you just want to take a setting that gives you enough to give you that foundation, and then you can run wild with the creativity within that, this can do that for you so well. It's such a well written little spot here in minimalist fashion, gives you just enough that you can play it just as it is out of the box per se, but easily allows you to add on whatever you want, or even to drop it in your existing world. I said it boldly in the beginning. I'll say it now. I really feel that this is one of those Warden's Guide that once it's out there and people are seeing it both in PDF and physical form, more and more people are going to realize this is a must read for most GMs or wardens or whatever kind of game master you are. This is a must read. You can use the principles and the tools given in these pages here and really translate that to almost any game. I have been a huge fan of Cairn since I first played it in late 2020, and I'm really excited to get that second edition box set. I can seriously sit here and praise this game forever. So before I let myself do that, let's head back over to the table so I can give you some closing thoughts about this expertly put together rules light tabletop RPG. If I haven't made this very clear, guys, I absolutely love Cairn. First edition, second edition, whatever, I love it. It's a great game. Yohai did an excellent job creating and writing this game. I really do want to go out on that limb and say boldly that I feel Cairn is rules like perfection. It's really doesn't get too much better than this, in this GM's humble opinion. It's a game where there's definitely enough given material to play right out of the box, so to speak, with ample room for homebrew and to play different games that can last you a lifetime. On top of that, I have to repeat that there's lots of third-party content available out there for you to explore, links in the description, and it's a simple enough system that it can be converted to a different genre with relative ease, easy to teach brand new players and brand new GMs. It's the true definition of a possible one game to rule them all at your table, or like I've been saying through the series, a one and done game if that's exactly what you're looking for. Now, the Cairn second edition physical books are not yet available, at least not of the recording of this, and this is being recorded in early September of 2024. We're hoping that the physical box sets that were backed on Kickstarter will be shipped out in March of 2025. However, the first edition is still available and out there, and you can take a look at some of the PDFs on the Cairn website. Again, all that stuff's linked down below if you want to check it out. Don't sleep on first edition, guys. It's a great game, and it's not like it's expensive to get into or anything, so you might as well get familiar with that rule set, because if you decide you want to get the second edition, it's the same rule set with some really awesome additions, as I hope I showcased in the PDF enough for you. I want to give a huge shout out to Yohai and the large and busy Cairn community that's out there on Discord and itch.io and anywhere you can find Cairn related stuff, basically, and go do some searching for it. It's out there and not hard to find. Hey, thanks for sticking with me, folks. And this was a really fun video series for me to make, and I really stand by what I made here. I do have a follow-up coming in the honorable mentions video where I'll explain a little bit more about all that stuff, but thanks for sticking with me through it. I'd love to hear discussions in the comments about what games you thought should have been on this list, or what you like about the games that are on this list, or what game you decided to switch to if you did, in fact, leave Hasbro Dungeons & Dragons and try one of these games. I'd love to hear what you think about it all. But I gotta tell you, I'm really glad to be part of the tabletop RPG community because, in my opinion, tabletop RPGs are one of the best hobbies you can take part in, especially when you're not bogged down by corporate politics and policies, and specifically when you keep playing for fun first. Thanks for watching, everybody.